Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 7 o'clock main news. In tonight's headlines, UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon calls on Israel to freeze illegal settlement activity after authorities unveiled plans to build a new settlement. The front-runner in Afghanistan's presidential election, Abdullah survives a deadly suicide bomb attack on his convoy. World War II veterans joined world leaders at a ceremony to mark 70 years since the historic Normandy landings. And Ukrainian forces stand guard after fending off an attack by pro-Russian separatists on a border post in the east of the country. His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, sent a cable of congratulations to His Majesty King Carl XVI Gustaf of Sweden on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Emir wished His Majesty the King of Sweden good health and to his country everlasting development and prosperity. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Majesty King Carl XVI Gustaf of Sweden on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Crown Prince wished His Majesty the King of Sweden good health and to his country everlasting development and prosperity. His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al Mbarak Al Hamad Al Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon called on Israel to freeze settlement activity and abide by international law after authorities unveiled plans to build 3,200 new settler homes. His spokesman said Ban is deeply concerned by reports that Israel issued the tenders for construction. He said, as the United Nations has reiterated on many occasions, the building of settlements on occupied territory is illegal under international law. He reiterated a call from Ban on both parties to avoid taking unilateral actions on the ground that would further diminish the chances of reaching a negotiated final peace agreement. He said the Secretary-General calls on Israel to heed the calls of the international community to freeze settlement activity and abide by its commitments under international law and the roadmap. After announcing a unity government, Palestinians are considering efforts to open the Rafah crossing, which witnesses constant closure by the Egyptian authorities. People in Gaza hope the new presidential changes in Egypt will ease their suffering and open the main lifeline for 1.8 million people. Majd Al-Muhaidi has this report from Gaza.
The formation of a national unity government, Hamas and Fatah leaders confirmed that the Egyptian authorities will open the Rafah crossing constantly. A senior Hamas official, Musa Abu Marzouk, said a Palestinian delegation will meet with Egyptian security authorities during the next few days.
There are promises to open the Rafah crossing as soon as possible, but some arrangements will happen with President Abu Mazen and the Prime Minister. There will be an agreement on the crossing mechanisms regarding the free of movement for people and the commercial crossing.
3 days have passed since the formation of the new government, yet the Rafah crossing is still closed. The closure prolongs the humanitarian crisis and has severe effects on the civilian population, including patients awaiting medical treatments and students. Last year, Al-Mashharawi died at the age of 1 day after he was born at the Egyptian side of the crossing. His mother waited for a long time to cross into the Gaza Strip, but she lost her son instead. I came here with my children for 10 times. I'm a pregnant woman. I cannot bear this suffering. Each time we come to the border and then nothing happens. Since 4 months, I am not able to leave. For more than 20 days, we used to come here. Last time, they put us in the bus. Why they don't let us in? Tell them to open the crossing. Since Hamas' control over Gaza in 2007, Egypt's military authorities tightened its restrictions on the crossing and shut down tens of tunnels through which medicines and fuel were brought into Gaza. In the last years, a huge conflict between Hamas and Egypt aroused. Egyptian authorities accused Hamas of intervening in Egypt's internal affairs and participating in the implementation of terroristic operations and bombings. In light of Egypt's changes and the declaration of Abdel Fattah al-Sisi as the new president, slight improvements are expected, especially after the recent reconciliation agreement and Egypt's welcoming of the new Palestinian unity government. Majd Al-Muhaidi, KTV2 Gaza.
Two blasts struck the convoy of Afghan presidential candidate Abdullah Abdullah as it left a campaign event at a wedding hall in the capital, Kabul, today. The Interior Ministry said the blast killed 4 civilians but left the candidate himself unharmed. A ministry spokesman said a suicide bomber had struck the convoy, followed by a roadside bomb, killing 4 civilians, with the toll likely to rise. He said no one from Abdullah's staff was killed. Kabul Police Chief Mohammed Zahir said both explosions were carried out by suicide bombers. The first was a driver who blew up a vehicle, and the second was a suicide bomber on foot. He said 2 people were killed and 16 others were wounded. Almost 2,000 veterans and world leaders are attending the main commemoration event marking the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings in Normandy, France. They are honouring the troops and civilians who fell in mighty battles that helped bring Europe peace and unity, just as bloodshed in Ukraine is posing new challenges to European security and threatening a new East-West divide. More on the following report with Salim El-Ajmi.
On the 6th of June 1944, British, US and Canadian forces invaded the northern coast of France in Normandy. The landings were the first stage in ending the Nazi occupation in Europe. The D-Day invasion was a turning point in World War II, cracking Hitler's Western Front as the Soviet troops made advances in the West. After 70 years, French President François Hollande has led the D-Day tributes by remembering those who died in the day that changed the world. World leaders and veterans paid tribute to soldiers who fell in the liberation of Europe. Today, leaders including US President Barack Obama, Britain's Queen Elizabeth, Russia's Vladimir Putin, and European political figures are gathering by the beaches of Normandy to mark the anniversary of D-Day. US President Barack Obama praised the bravery of those who had taken part in the battle.
I am honored to return here today to pay tribute to the men and women of a generation who defied every danger. Among them are veterans of D-Day. And gentlemen, we are truly humbled by your presence here today.
The men who were part of the landing operation joined world leaders today in paying tribute to the 150 Allied troops who risked and lost their lives in the Normandy landings in Nazi-occupied France in a day of international commemorations of history's biggest invasion.
Oh, I'm overwhelmed with it all. That's all I can say. It makes me feel very humble. I suppose we do. We appreciate it, but they're all very kind to us for doing what we did, which I'm glad we did. Anyway, that's the best I can say, I think. They're all very nice people and look a lot happier, I must say.
The commemorations are also offering a moment to try to reconcile Ukraine crisis and Russia's relations with the West. At the event, Russia's President Vladimir Putin met Ukrainian President-elect Petro Poroshenko for the first time since his election. German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who was also present, told Putin earlier that Moscow bore great responsibility for making peace in Ukraine.
Ukrainian forces fended off an attack by pro-Russian separatists on a border post in the east of the country, in the second major attack on a post straddling Ukraine and Russia in recent days. 5 Ukrainian soldiers were wounded and several Soviet-era trucks used by the rebels were destroyed in the attack on Merenivka, east of the regional capital Donetsk. The key attack was eventually repelled by airstrikes. A spokesman later said the border service had preliminary information that 15 separatists had been killed in the fighting. The insurgency in Ukraine has escalated in the past 2 weeks, killing scores and prompting some families to flee their homes. International Monetary Fund Chief Christine Lagarde has ruled herself out of the race to be the next president of the European Commission after current President José Manuel Barroso steps down in October. Lagarde said today in London that she was intending to see out her 5-year term ending in 2016 as the boss of the world's financial watchdog, adding that she was not a candidate and she was having a job. The possibility of Lagarde of France taking the job had reportedly been discussed by German Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President François Hollande, while the British made clear its opposition to front-runner Jean-Claude Juncker of Luxembourg. Shortly before joining Lagarde at an IMF press conference in London, British Chancellor of the Exchequer George Osborne underlined the UK's view that whoever heads the European Commission must understand the need for change and not ignore the EU's weak economic record and the anger shown by voters in recent polls. Canadian police have arrested a man suspected of killing 3 police officers and wounding 2 others in Moncton, New Brunswick. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police in New Brunswick said today that Justin Bourque was arrested without incident just after midnight in Moncton, and he was unarmed at that time but had weapons nearby. Following the arrest, police lifted a warning that residents should remain indoors and off the streets. Police officers were shot when responding to a report of an armed man at the northwest side of the town at night on Wednesday. Over 2,000 migrants on 17 separate boats have been rescued by the Italian Navy and Coast Guard in the past 24 hours. A Coast Guard statement noted that the good weather and calm seas had encouraged more migrants to attempt the crossing from the shores of North Africa to Italy. Video provided by the Italian Navy showed one wooden boat crammed with migrants frantically waving white cloths at the Navy ship, and rescue teams approached the migrant boats with bags of life jackets. 5 Navy ships and 1 Coast Guard vessel have been involved in the rescue operations, which are still underway. Hundreds of striking teachers returned to the streets of Rio de Janeiro on Thursday night to protest the World Cup that kicks off next week in Brazil and demand better salaries and labour conditions. The teachers are against the money being spent on the sporting event, which they say would have been better used on other services such as education and health. The teachers, who have been on strike for a month, took part in the peaceful march, chanting and holding posters. It was the latest protest to hit Brazil since huge nationwide anti-government demonstrations began last June. In recent months, Brazil has seen demonstrations mostly in Rio, and the country's biggest city, Sao Paulo, on an almost daily basis. Dar Al Fanoon Gallery inaugurated the private viewing of Orient 499 and Iwan Maktabi's 3rd annual collaborative exhibition. Since its establishment in 1994, the gallery aims to promote the work of contemporary artists from the region and inspire art enthusiasts and art lovers to gain awareness of this emerging art. Sarah Glubb was at the opening and has this report.
The 3rd annual joint exhibition featuring Beirut-based boutique Orient 499 and Iwan Maktabi was inaugurated at Dar Al Fanoon Gallery.
In fact, this is becoming slowly a tradition that Mohammed Maktabi, who has the most beautiful antique and new and modern carpets in Lebanon, and ourselves, Frank Luca and I, who have a shop which is Orient 499. Becoming a tradition to come every year to Kuwait and to have our own exhibition, because we love the people here and the people love us. So we cannot hold it without coming to Kuwait. We do kaftans, we do beautiful dresses as well, furniture like this kind of furniture, and we do copper. We bring a small, tiny collection, but which is representative of what we do in Beirut. So every year it's becoming really something that we have much fun coming to here.
Orient 499 is a trendy boutique mixing tradition and modernity and offers exclusive original handicrafts and designer creations, with items varying from antiques to modern furniture, clothing, jewelry and accessories from Lebanon and the entire region.
We're showing at Dar Al Fanoon a collection of selected antique carpets that we have been collecting for a very long time. We brought various pieces from Iran, from Turkey, from India, from the Caucasus, from Armenia. Last year we did also an exhibition here where we brought our contemporary line, our own designer carpets that we design and produce ourselves as a couture collection. This year we decided to bring our treasures, our antique treasures. Well, we have nice followers here in Kuwait that appreciate our work and our pieces. So the response is quite good. We're happy.
The leading carpet gallery in Lebanon, Iwan Maktabi's collection spans various styles and periods, and its antique collection contains fine Persian, Caucasian and Central Asian carpets. This annual joint exhibition between Beirut-based boutique Orient 499 and Iwan Maktabi has become somewhat of a tradition here at Dar al-Funun, and they bring every year the most unique collections that possess the most creative and exquisite characteristics. From the Dar al-Funun Gallery, this is Sarah Glubb reporting for English News.
For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. And to recap tonight's news, here are the headlines once again. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon calls on Israel to freeze illegal settlement activity after authorities unveiled plans to build a new settlement. The front-runner in Afghanistan's presidential election, Abdullah Abdullah, survives a deadly suicide bomb attack on his convoy. World War II veterans join world leaders at a ceremony to mark 70 years since the historic Normandy landings. And Ukrainian forces stand guard after fending off an attack by pro-Russian separatists on a border post in the east of the country. Thank you for joining us.